Hey friends, Emily with Emily Copeland Fitness here. I hope that you guys are doing fantastic. I want to cover a topic today that actually is a little bit difficult to talk about. I am going to talk about probably the most difficult part of my health journey. Actually, I know it's been the most difficult part of my health journey because it was probably the darkest time of my health journey. And the reason I want to share it with you today is because I've actually been talking with some people behind the scenes who have come to me and have told me about this issue that they're having. And when they talk to me about it, I can relate 100% because I also went through this exact same thing. Um, it was exactly like probably right when I resigned with the modeling agency back when I was about 19 years old, and I had just spent the last 3 or 4 years really starving my body and trying to be the certain size that I was expected to be, and I was really never. I was able to get there, but I was never able to maintain the skinniness, the body that they needed me to maintain. And so I really struggled. And because I was young and because I had restricted my food intake so much, there were issues that came along with that. And so, like I said, as soon as I resigned, this issue became loud and clear, and it led me into the darkest part of my health journey. I found myself restricting my calories during the week and completely binging on the weekends to the point where I really felt completely out of control. I would eat whatever I could in the kitchen, even if I wasn't hungry, even when I was full, I just couldn't stop eating. As a result, I gained 40 pounds very quickly, and I was miserable. And I just thought maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. I mean, at some point during that age, around that age, is when you kind of tend to find your ideal body weight, where your body kind of fits comfortably. If you're eating well and you're exercising, your body kind of gets to like that weight that you're really kind of most comfortable at. And so I thought maybe this is it, but I knew it didn't feel right. Nothing about that felt right because I knew that I was eating way too much. I was miserable. After I would eat and binge, I would feel terrible about myself. I would physically feel terrible. I remember so many times wanting to do laxatives, crying after I would eat a ton. I even would sit by the toilet at times, just trying to talk myself into purging. And I knew it was an issue. I knew this was a problem, and I knew that this isn't something I could do long term. That this was a major problem. And it really wasn't until recently that I actually realized what was actually going on in that time. I started researching binge eating disorder because like I said, I'd been talking with some people who come to me with this issue, and was doing some research and trying to work with them through this. And it became very clear that this is something I struggled with. And maybe this is something that you struggle with as well. Maybe you've been there where you find yourself eating and you're out of control and you can't stop and you're miserably full, but you just want to keep eating, and then you feel disgusted with yourself and you're so upset and that you let go of control, that you didn't have control in those moments, and you find yourself gaining weight and feeling miserable. Maybe you've been there, and this is the whole reason I want to make this video, is so that you understand that you're not alone and that there's a name for what's going on. There's reasons that this is happening, but I also want you to know that there is a way out and that it doesn't have to last forever, and that this is something that you can be healed from and that you can put in your past. And that's what I want to cover tonight. But I just wanted to share with you a little bit of information about this binge eating disorder. And I want you to know that this sounds really extreme. This sounds like something that only morbidly obese people will struggle with, but that's not the case. In fact, I know I struggled with it and I wasn't morbidly obese. And maybe you're in the same boat. But here's what binge eating disorder is typically caused by. Biological reasons, social pressures. So if you've ever felt that pressure to be thin, it can be caused by that. Early dieting, and I believe this is probably the reason that I had issues, was because I was forced to diet at a very early age, and I didn't really know how to do it the right way. Sexual abuse, that could be an issue and a reason that causes this. And also major life changes. Maybe you've moved or gotten married or, experienced great loss in your life. These are things that can trigger binge eating disorder. But let me read this to you, and maybe this is something you can relate with. I read this and I thought, oh my goodness, it's like my own thoughts had come down on paper. Um, People with binge eating disorder struggle with feelings of guilt, disgust, and depression. They worry about what the compulsive eating will do to their bodies, and they beat themselves up for their lack of self-control. They desperately want to stop, but they don't feel like they can. Maybe you can relate with that. I know it was like hitting a nail right on the head, man. It was crazy when I read that. I thought that is exactly what I went through. Here are some signs of binge eating disorder: the inability to stop eating, not having control over that at certain points of your day or your week, rapidly eating large amounts of food, eating when you're full, hiding food, gorging when you're alone, eating normally around people when you're in public, but when you're alone, you tend to eat a lot of food, eating all day long, not having planned meals, feeling stress that's only relieved by eating, embarrassment of the quantity of food that you eat, feeling numb while you eat, never feeling satisfied, feeling disgusted after you eat. I know that was something that I felt big time. Desperation to control weight and eating, and that's absolutely something I dealt with as well, and those feelings. And so I wanted to bring all of that to your attention. And if you do identify with this, and if this is something you've struggled with, I want you to know that you're not alone and that there are ways to overcome this. And I do want to say that this is not something that happens overnight. It's not something that you just walk away from and completely cut out cold turkey. But I do want you to know that if you'll take these steps and that if you'll start applying these things to your life and to your situation, that you can absolutely find healing. I know that I have, and I speak from experience. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because it's something I've been able to overcome. And I can look at it and say that it's part of my past and it's absolutely not going to be a part of my future. So here's how you can overcome it. First of all, the biggest thing, first stop that you need to make is you need to give it to God. Give it to the healer. He desperately wants you to be free from this. This is not something he wants you to be entangled with. He didn't create you to live a life that is controlling you and where you aren't in control of the situation. Give it over to him. First and foremost, Matthew 11:28-30. Let me read this to you real quick. I love the Messages version of this. It says, "Are you tired, worn out? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." That's awesome. I love that verse. Matthew 11:28-30. Check that out. Number 2, when you're in the moments where you're feeling like you're just in the midst of a binge, I want you to stop and ask God to give you control in that moment. Ask him for it. Ask him to give you control. And he's going to give you the control to overcome that moment. But you've got to trust that he will. And then you've got to walk away. You've got to walk away in that moment and understand and identify what's going on. Give it to God. Ask him for control and walk away from it. Number 3 is you've got to let go of unrealistic expectations that you've put on yourself. There's a reason that you're restricting your food that's leading to binges. So if you're just simply trying to get healthy, that's fantastic. But if you find yourself binging, then there's something that's not right that's going on that's forcing you to binge. So maybe you've restricted your calories too much. Maybe you have unrealistic weight loss goals, or you're trying to lose weight too rapidly. Or you're restricting too much of the foods that you enjoy to where you don't feel like you're really on a diet. And that's very problematic. That's definitely not going to help your case. And so you've got to identify exactly what pressures you're putting on yourself and make the changes. If that means that you need to introduce some unhealthier foods back into your diet that you've completely cut out, then you need to do that. And yes, as a fitness coach, I'm telling you to do that. But for your health and your sanity and for your future, you need to make sure that you are not putting unrealistic expectations on yourself. And I'm not telling you to go back to your unhealthy ways. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is if you've cut out everything that you love, all of the unhealthy foods that you love, and you've not touched them, you are trying to stay as far away from them as possible. Sometimes if you allow yourself to have a little bit in moderation, you can completely bypass that binge because you've got a taste for it. And you've enjoyed a little bit of your favorite food and you've moved on. So try doing that. Finally, this is what has allowed me to really move past this binge eating disorder and what was allowed me to completely walk away from it, and I don't struggle with it anymore. Besides obviously giving it to God first and foremost and laying it at his feet, I actually adopted a new mindset and a new view of food. This new view of food and this new mindset that I adopted was really critical. And I've actually explained this in another video because it was so helpful for me, and I hope that it'll be helpful for you as well. But many times, especially if you've lived in the last couple of decades, you know that we have gone through extreme dieting fads. And a lot of times we view food as either this is going to make me fat, this plate of food is going to make me fat, or this plate of food, maybe it's a salad, is going to make me skinny. It's an all or nothing kind of a mindset, right? And instead of viewing food, and that's why I think we got into this whole, idea of let's do low-fat foods and fat-free foods and sugar-free foods, is because we wanted to have the same foods that we enjoy, but things that won't make us fat. And so we ended up eating a lot of processed foods, and that's a majority of our diet as Americans as a whole nowadays. But the thing is, and the reason that that's a problem is that we don't view food for what it really is. And so how do you view food for what it really is? Look at the food and look at it and understand that this is real food. So if you're eating a fast food meal from a restaurant, more than likely it's processed, it's got additives, it's got preservatives, it's got hormones, it's got artificial colors and sweeteners, and you name it, it probably has it. And most of that isn't even food. But if you're looking at a salad, you're looking at lean meats and veggies and fruits and whole grains. Those are real food. Those come from the ground. We call them earth foods. And so what changed for me was that I started looking at my food as either real food, like actual food that comes from the planet, or fake food. And so in my head, it took the pressure off of, well, this meal's going to make me fat or this meal's going to make me skinny. And I just said, I just want to eat real food. And when you eat real food, you fuel your body well and you give your body everything it needs to function normally. And when you have a well-balanced diet of real foods, and you have exercise, you can't hang on to a lot of extra weight that is there, because you're feeding your body exactly what it needs. And so once I made that transition to looking at food as, is this even real or is this not real? Then I started the pressure of that just dangerous mindset of, well, I restricted myself from what I really wanted. Now I got to go binge and find what I really wanted and eat until I'm blue in the face. That pressure went away because I was eating real foods. I did eat a little bit of what I wanted in moderation, but for the most part, I began viewing food differently, and that made all of the difference. And so now I don't struggle with restricting so I can have this later. I eat as much whole, real food as I can and allow myself treats here and there. And because of that, I found a very well-balanced life. And eating, I just eat well because of that. Not all the time, but for the most part. So I wanted to make this because I really, really hope that this gives you hope, and that it gives you an answer to maybe what you've been dealing with, and direction on where to go and where to start and how to overcome. My prayer for you is that you will find healing and that you'll be able to overcome this issue and that you'll find rest on the other side. And so please let me know if there's anything I can do for you. If you want to discuss this, if you want to talk more, please feel free to send me an email, emilyacopeland@gmail.com. Please feel free to do that. I would love to discuss this further with you, but I'll be praying for you and praying that you do find the healer and give him ultimate control over the situation so that you can walk away from it forever. All right, you guys, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.